All right, hey guys, welcome to another YouTube episode here together. I'm super excited to be getting going with you. My name is Zac Spowart, and this is Nomadic Addictt. So thank you for joining me as we continue on in our YouTube adventures here. Hope you guys are checking out the site, checking out some of the blogs. I've been putting a lot more work into it for you lately, and focusing a bit more on the mental wellness side of things, but also certainly going to be diving into a bit more travel hacks and life hacks, and that's a big part of what I'm looking forward to do here with the YouTube videos, as well as, of course, all the different social media platforms. So we're active now on TikTok, active on YouTube, obviously with this video here. Look for some YouTube shorts. Instagram was obviously kind of where it started, and then some Facebook stuff as well too. So whatever platform you're on, or you want to recommend to your friends or family or whomever, please feel free to go ahead and do so. The goal here for Nomadic Addictt is to be something that can grow and develop and really get caught up together as a family, as a team, as a unit. I can't do this alone, and my goal is to really try to touch as many lives as we can, and starting with one person at a time. But I'm a big believer that if all of us just do a little bit, the ripple effect from that is massive. And so, just as my life has been touched by so many, I'm hoping to maybe just be a little bit of a kickstart to that for a handful of other people, and through the entity of Nomadic Addictt, which is what this is all about. So really excited to be getting going with you guys a lot more. Super passionate about the blogs that are going out there, super passionate about the site. And then of course, this is my favorite part, is getting to talk to you guys directly, this audience facing stuff. So look for some motivational videos that are gonna be coming out with some audio that I'm recording, and then some of my own videos, whether it's drone footage or scuba footage or just sailing footage. You may have already seen some, depending on when you're catching this video. So really jazzed about that. But for today's episode, I know it's taken me a minute to get into it with you guys. I want to talk to you a little bit about Nomadic Addictt in terms of myself. Zac Spowart, and a bit about my story of recovery. And as I mentioned with you guys before, especially in the introductory episode here, my purpose, mission, and vision for Nomadic Addictt is not to push sobriety or recovery onto anyone. If you're sober curious, if you're alcohol or drug free, and that's just part of your religion or just the way that you're sort of wired naturally, right on. If you're somebody that is in active addiction, and maybe I can be a sounding board for you, or a listening ear, or hopefully you might hear something that clicks just through my own experience in terms of getting sober at a young age, 21 years old, and having gone through some of that stuff, obviously even younger. That would be fantastic. Obviously, if I can connect with you and help you in any way, that's a big part of why I'm doing this. And again, fast forwarding right to any of those of you that are out there that are daily drinkers but no problems, or prescribed medications and no problems. Like, my goal, my purpose behind Nomadic Addictt and talking about the sobriety and the recovery piece is not to tell anybody what they can and cannot do, or what they should or should not do. Honestly, I have no right to do that. That's not my intention. But I just want to be here to support you guys. And my ultimate goal is for you to truthfully live the best lives, the richest lives, the happiest lives that you can live. And for me, that comes from and is largely a direct result of being sober and stumbling onto recovery. And as I shared in my introductory video, that is founded in the roots of the 12 steps. And so I'm going to talk a bit about that, and this episode might run a little bit longer than some other ones. My target is around 10 to 15 minutes for a lot of these videos for you guys, not to burn you out too much. But when it comes to getting sober and a bit of my story and getting vulnerable with you guys, obviously that's something that I think can take a bit of time. And here we are already 4.5 minutes in. So I hope you'll bear with me. I hope that you'll lean into this episode if you are inclined to hear my story. Hope that it resonates with some of you guys, most importantly. And if it does, that maybe you take some of it as a positive thing, an encouraging thing, supportive thing, and maybe even pass some of it on to your friends or family that may also potentially benefit from it. So I want to dive right in told you guys my name already, Zac Spowart. Was raised in California and Monterey specifically, a nice little like aquarium known town. Very foggy, but beautiful, beautiful area. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, I highly, highly recommend it. Beautiful little town. But I say that because I was raised in a relatively well-to-do family, in the sense that, my dad is a surgeon, my mom's an artist. I have an older sister, younger brother, and these are all things that were just part of my life. My parents were great. Some of your guys' parents, you may or may not feel that same way. But honestly, I don't feel that they did anything wrong. And I say that because that is a part of my story. And for some of you guys, that may or may not be a part of your story, where you have, what you identify as a good upbringing, but wondering sort of like where the screw went loose or what went wrong, right? Where we turned the corner or started walking the path, seemingly the wrong direction. And, some of my blogs and some other episodes I'll talk about really highlight this idea of like what is right versus wrong and good versus bad. And one of my favorite quotes is William Shakespeare says, "Nothing is either good or bad. It's thinking that makes it so." And so, we'll talk more about that later episode about, attachment and what those outcomes mean. But I say that because for me, obviously addiction and active drug and alcohol use, was bad. However, at 37 years old now and having 16 years sober, I'm living a life that, is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination, life on life's terms all the time, but I'm really genuinely, truthfully happy and grateful for my life today. And none of that would be the case if it wasn't for my sobriety as a foundation for my life. And so that's what this episode is about. Again, I know that we're already 7 minutes in here, but I want to talk to you guys a bit about what that makeup was. And if you had a broken home coming up, I feel you, I've been around that. Certainly it's not 100% my story, but having, my first master's in addiction counseling with a focus on co-occurring mental health disorders, I've been front lines in terms of treating some of that and talking to some of these families directly. I definitely have experience in terms of being involved in that. And I feel for you, and you are loved genuinely. I hope that you know that. Like I will say in this episode and previous episodes and future episodes, let others love you until you learn to love yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you cannot love yourself, and you struggle with those affirmations and you struggle with that self-worth, you're going to struggle with being happy. Truthfully, that's a big part of where happiness comes from. I believe is just contentment within yourself, and not contentment in a bad state of mind, contentment in the beautiful aspect of it, the beauty of it, the peaceful element of it, And so anyway, I got and am, or I should just say I am a pretty anxious person naturally. And, I had lots of panic attacks when I was younger, and I had no idea what it was. Just diving right back into my story. Right around 16 years old, I started getting so sick to my stomach, I would throw up. And again, I'm going to be vulnerable with you guys and be open with you guys, because that's what this is all about. That's my pledge to you. That's my commitment, because my belief is that somebody out there might benefit from this story. And, I want to be as raw with you guys as I can, so that, if you're struggling with any of that, you're willing and open and comfortable enough to open up as well. And so I looked for an answer, and there weren't easy answers to be had at a young age. For me, again, 15, 16 years old, first girlfriend, uncomfortable, not knowing my place. I was originally, go to school, do the football, do the homework, and it was like very, mathematical, very equation based, and then spit out an outcome, right? And I did well with structure, and I did well with discipline. But fast forward, once I started to, I think, hit that turning point, I got a little bit more freedom, started to be able to like actually go out a bit. 16 years old, you start to get your license, start experimenting with, what it looks like to be a little bit more engaged with opposite sex or whoever you're into, life partners, all that stuff that comes up, right? And I'm just in this space of like, what is going on? I thought I was a certain type of person. I thought I had a certain type of energy, and I was pretty familiar with that energy, but learning about ourselves from 13 to 16 years old is not something we get a book on. And I am a big believer that we are all very, very unique in our own regard. And while therapists are there to support us, and parents are there to support us, and friends are there to support us, nobody's got it figured out. Truthfully, I remember looking at therapists and judging them slightly because, they're opening up a book and they're flipping through and they're listening to what I'm saying and they're just fishing for a diagnosis. They want to know like, oh, he said this and oh, he said that and oh, that means he's, this, moderate, severe, whatever. Diagnose me, throw me a pill, make it all go away, make it all feel better. And I mean, by all means, God bless us all. I wish that would have been as easy. And Lord knows they tried. I got prescribed benzos at one point, benzodiazepines, if you're not familiar with that, is an anti-anxiety. Highly, highly, highly addictive, by the way. If you're not familiar with them or you are interested in taking them or you are taking them, I really, really encourage you to be mindful of your use. There's a law of physics, one of Newton's laws of physics that says, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. And that'll tell you that if you're taking a substance to calm yourself down forcefully and chemically, your body will produce an equal and opposite response to try to keep you back at a homeostasis level. So if you're naturally anxious and you introduce a substance that drives that down, your body's going to try to drive it back up. And that's in essence where the idea of tolerance comes from. You have to take more to achieve a desired effect, to get more high, to get more calm. Same with nicotine, if you're a cigarette smoker or chewing tobacco. Same with caffeine, if you take a lot of coffee, although sometimes that can have a different effect, story for a different day. But regardless, the point is, if you understand how this stuff works, you can be hopefully more open-minded to the idea of like, oh wow, like this isn't helping. A lot of pain pills, and I'm not out to judge anybody here. Again, I want to say that multiple times. If you're on pain medications right now, I'm not in your shoes, and I don't genuinely know how much it hurts to go through what you're going through, and I feel for you on that. And I would encourage you to really look into what those pain pills are doing for you, because similar to alcohol and some of these other things, there's a high likelihood, based off of what I just shared with you, that it's actually making your problem worse. And that's what's crazy about it, is so much of Western medicine, and I'm not trying to be all hippity-dippity here. I know that I live in Bali, Indonesia. It's like, sort of the land of the hippies at times. But truthfully, so much of this is, and in Western medicine and what we're taught and raised with is something to address the symptom, not the problem. And so the symptom is I'm anxious, so it's going to address this anxious response. But the problem is I'm anxious, right? Or the symptom is I might throw up when I get anxiety, or I might get clammy hands, or I might, speak fast or have rapid heart rate. If you're depressed, you might sleep too much, you might have a low appetite, if you have a hard time sleeping, again, all of these medicines are designed to force you out of that situation, but the underlying problem will always exist. It's a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. And so that's a big part, getting back to my story, that's a big part of what my story was about. Unfortunately, at 16, 15 years old, nobody knew that. God bless my parents, they did the best they could. I remember I was running around like a maniac trying to find alcohol in any way I could because it calmed my anxious mind. And it helped me at the time with the girlfriend I was dating to just be calmer around her instead of being so anxious. And they stumbled across like 3 bottles of hard liquor. And my mom was like, oh my God, what do we do? And so, like the next day she yanked me out, or close to it, I don't remember exactly, but she yanked me out of the coffee shop that I was working at. I was like, you're going to treatment. And I remember thinking to myself, I was like, I'm driving to Mexico. I'm trying to talk my girlfriend at the time to go with me. I have no money to my name. It's completely ridiculous. It's like that, 16-year-old ridiculous thought process. But like the world is ending, going to treatment, which is really, truthfully, what I needed. It's irony. But in any event, right? Nobody knew what to do. I didn't know what to do. They didn't know what to do. And I was so sick to my stomach, and it was getting worse, that I was becoming more pale. I was becoming more slim. Certainly wasn't beefing up for football. Wasn't going to football practice anymore, smoking weed and drinking more. And it's a progressive illness, if you believe in it as an illness, or a dis-ease, out of ease, not in ease. in terms of the way that, addiction can work, and as it's explained to me and as it makes sense to me, it rests in between my ears, operating from my brain as a desire to have more. There's a saying in AA, it says, one is too many and 1,000 is never enough. So if I try to take one, that's going to take me over the limit. And if I go after 1,000, which of course nobody can do, but you get the point, the desire to have more is always going to exist. And so again, moving through my story here, I did everything I could to try to figure out a way to just be balanced. At the end of the day, like I think so much of us desire and want and crave, we just want to be okay, and I don't know that anybody ever stops to talk about that, to be honest. Like, I really think so much of living life is just trying to find a way to just be okay. It doesn't even have to be happy, so many of us like struggle, and we all have these different issues, and it's like, man, if somebody could just like stop and like really care for a moment. And I'm not saying that they don't, but maybe care and have some answers. that would be nice. But so for me, the answers didn't exist. And again, my parents did the best they could. My dad was operating, he's a heart surgeon. He was operating on, I literally actively out there saving lives all day long, and sometimes through the middle of the night. So he wasn't around a ton. And I don't say that in a negative way, again, just part of my story. And so my mom is frantically doing everything she can to help. And my dad is, when he's around, trying to do the best he can to support. Nobody's doing anything wrong, truthfully. And I know that within the deepest, core of my heart. And I hope in your story right now, whatever you're going through, that you know that that's true too, that your parents, your spouse, your kids, whatever the situation is, that like everyone, I genuinely believe, is doing the best they can with what they have. But you don't know what you don't know, right? For them and for me. And some of this has to be through life lessons, which is really tough. And some of it has to be, through education, through videos, maybe like this, or maybe through books or audio books or whatever it may be. So anyways, fast forward a bit more through my story here. I really do my best to stumble through college. I start off at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, but I don't go to class. I'm drinking, and I decide to bail out. And they politely ask me to kind of get my crap together. Like, hey man, figure out if you want to be here or not. Let us know. I'm like, cool. Thanks for letting me know. I'm not going to come back. And I didn't. I left. I did some junior college stuff. Did a lot of junior college stuff, actually. Went to about 6 different junior colleges, bouncing around, trying to figure stuff out. I stayed with different friends, and I tried different things. I wanted to be an EMT. I wanted to be a firefighter. I wanted to be all these things, right? These formidable years of our lives, just frantically reaching for any solution while I was also actively drinking and trying to figure out, who I was. And so, going through these formidable years, it's tough, for probably so many of us, and certainly for me, again, speaking from a place of I and my story, sharing with you guys. And so, it just rapidly progressed, through Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, which is nobody's fault in San Luis Obispo, again, and none of my friends' fault. Everybody did the best they could to support me. My drinking got worse. I needed more to feel calmer. I was the life of the party, and a bunch of people were telling me they loved me better when I was drunk, and I was told all these things. And then one day it just flipped. All of a sudden it was like I was fighting people, and I was just the weird guy, or I was annoying, and all these bad things were happening. And so I'm going to jump right into what happened. That the solution of alcohol for me, which it was a solution, and this is what AA and the 12 steps talked to me about in terms of recovery, was that it was a solution. It was my life solution to a problem that was, I didn't know how to live life. I didn't know how to identify who I was. I didn't know how to identify how to live. And I didn't know how to talk to anybody about this. Definitely didn't know how to identify any of the emotions that I was going through, and to try to actually put true names to these things. So the good news is there's hope beyond hope. I hope that you believe that, to abuse that word there, but really, truthfully, wholeheartedly, life has gotten better today. And again, this is not a pitch for AA. There's lots of ways to get sober. It just happened to work for me. I love having a sponsor. I have great sponsors today. I love having some accountability. I chair a meeting out here in Bali, weekly, and And I love leading that meeting. I love going and seeing the people. I genuinely love receiving that message and being supported by some of my peers and having that discipline, you know. But AA is not my life today. Sobriety is, absolutely. Recovery is 100%. But AA is not my life today. And that's what Nomadic Addictt is about. You know, I want to share that with you guys. Adventures in recovery. I go all over the world. And not because anybody tells me to. Definitely not because anybody pays me to. Lord knows that's not true. Maybe one day that'll change, right? There's lots of travel influencers out there. But just for today, that's not my story. I'm out here, you know, doing the best I can with what I got and the tools that I've learned to feed my passions. And sometimes that means, you know, as gosh, I can't remember his name now, but there's this game show host who's fantastic too, a great motivational speaker. He says, you know, you jump and you grow wings on the way down. I think that was probably quoted from somebody else as well too. But the point is, like, we don't get to know sometimes that there's a safety net there. We don't always get that privilege. And operating from that space can more often than not be operating from the space of fear, which is future expectations appearing real, as opposed to having faith in ourselves or in a higher power or in whatever you choose to believe in. Again, if you don't believe in like a God or the universe or an energy or whatever, that's fine. Just have some belief and faith in yourself, you know, that inner voice that like is speaking to you, you know, your conscience or whatever you want to call it, you know, a little thing that's like, hey, I really wish we went and did this. And you're like, nah, I got to go work, or no, I got to go do that. Of course, you can't just like blow off work, but that doesn't mean you can't quit your job. You know, don't let like me get you in trouble with your wife or your family saying that. But the truth is, and part of my story I'm going to share in later episodes, is I did do that. You know, I had great paying jobs, 6-figure jobs, you know, multi-million-dollar companies that I was working for. I built treatment programs for numerous people. But I refused to settle, much like in relationships. You know, I find myself still being single. Sometimes I'm like, what is going on here? But the truth of the matter is, like, and maybe I'm too picky, right? You never know. You can always self-contemplate. But I look at my track record and I have trust and faith and belief in myself today, belief in my higher power, belief in the universe, belief in whatever it is that you want to believe in. And I just wholeheartedly believe, for me, and that's what this episode is about, opening up to you guys from myself and my story, more about Nomadic Addictt and Zac Spowart, is that what I'm called to do and what I'm doing are presently aligned. And it wasn't always the case. For a long time, I was doing things I didn't want to do, and it felt wrong. And I was like, well, maybe it'll make sense. And again, I just kind of followed that path, but it was really wonky. And eventually, you know, I came to a head where I'm like, you know, I'm a director of compliance, I'm, you know, director of operations, I'm an executive director, I'm all these different fancy titles. And I've tried all these different legs of treatment, and I just cannot find myself like actually attaching to a company that I wholeheartedly believe is doing the right thing, or that I can really get behind. And while I love team building and I love building programs and I love seeing people get healthy and well, I just could not wrap my head around the way that these programs are running. And I know I jumped a little bit, so I'm going to backtrack real quick, but I ended up going to jail multiple times. And this is where, you know, one of my teachers that I really liked, Hazelden Betty Ford, Hazelden only at the time, which is where I got my first master's. He used to say, you know, he had a back problem, which was that he got sober and he came into these rooms because he had the courts on his back, he had his wife on his back, he had judges on his back, the police on his back, whatever, right? You get the point. So I really related to that. I certainly had a back problem when I came in. And by the grace of God or the universe or whatever, right? I really attribute a big part of my recovery and my sobriety today to, in my life being changed, was directly a result of these interventions, these things that were outside of me, in the shape of police officers, you know, and being pulled over already on the side of the road, having had alcohol in the car, you know, and losing my license for a year, and having a DUI, you know, with my little brother, or at first actually someone called the cops on me from a gas station. And the second time my little brother got into, you know, was in the car with me and, you know, fractured his neck. And And I'm directly responsible for that. And again, I told you guys I was going to be vulnerable with you. And I know that this is the internet. And I know that this can lead to any number of things, but it's all public record, and that's my truth. That's my reality today. If you want to look me up and you want to see that, yeah, you're going to see Adventures in Recovery and you're going to see Nomadic Addict, but you're also going to see, a side of me that I'm not particularly proud of, but I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for what took place in my life. And Lord knows I'm grateful that my family, has forgiven me and that, I was able to go through that with my little brother. We have a great relationship today. And of course that he wasn't paralyzed, easily could have been. But, I spent a few weeks in jail, and I was sentenced to 4 months in jail, which thankfully I was able to then later serve on house arrest. But, it was no joke for me. 5 years felony probation in Los Angeles, with rapists and murderers, and being thrown in with felons in, Monterey County Prison, which is actually in Salinas, which is a relatively dangerous place. It was no joke, it's just a big deal. And obviously the shame that brought to my parents, my dad being like the only heart surgeon in the county at the time, obviously a prominent guy, and my mom, being out there with her art, and it was a lot of shame. And that's what comes up with using in addiction so much is what we call a shame spiral. Even just talking about that's it right now, it just brings it back, almost floods my eyes with tears. It's just heavy stuff, but the good news is, I'm not that person today. People can and do change. I like to think I'm an example of that. Obviously, I haven't been drunk in a really long time. I haven't been drinking in a long time. But I have to remember, another line from AA. I told you this is where I get the basis of my foundation. We don't we don't forget the past, nor do we wish to shut the door on it. Something like that. I'd say I'm butchering it here for you guys. But the point is, we don't obsess over what's happened in the past, but we cannot forget about it either. And for me, if I forget that that's where I come from, then there's a good chance that I'll lead back there. And I don't want to be back there today. I genuinely, completely like who I am today. And I get a lot of positive affirmations around that from other people. And it took a lot of work to get there. I'm 16 years sober. That's basically 16 years of therapy. A lot of AA and step work is inner work. Doing step 4, which is, creating a list of resentments and frustration that we have towards other people, and ultimately looking at our part in it, figuring out a way to understand what was my participation in this. I'm not a victim of anything. And it's a really empowering space to operate from. Will Smith talks about that a lot too in his motivational stuff, not being a victim. And so if you find yourself making excuses for yourself, I urge you to really look at that, why do you feel the need to defend yourself? If you're defending your drinking or your prescriptions or whatever, why? Who cares? If it's not an issue, then it's not an issue. So anyway, I got sober as a result of that. And I share that with you too, because I don't want you guys to think one day I just woke up and was like, today's a great day to get sober. No. Matter of fact, right after I got out of jail, first thing I did was I went and I drank 2 40s with this other guy who had 3 DUIs. I waited a few hours and then I called my parents and told them that I had just gotten out of jail. If they're watching this video, this might be the first time they ever heard that. But the truth is, they could have gotten me a lot earlier. They could have not gotten me at all. But they were nice people and they decided to come get me. But selfishly, which is so much of what addiction is rooted in, is selfishness, self-centeredness. I didn't care that it was late. I didn't care that my dad worked. I just was like, hey, they just let me out. You got to come get me. I got nowhere to go. And again, being the good people that they are, they came and got me. But it was 2 a.m. I'm drinking by a dumpster. This is true story. Again, this is the son of a heart surgeon, growing up in an upper middle class family in Monterey, California, which if you've been there is a pretty nice neighborhood, pretty nice town. And I'm literally drinking by the dumpster. I remember this it was yesterday. It's wild. And this guy, it was freezing. It was cold. It was a cold night. I had a t-shirt and ripped pants because they give you back the stuff that you were in from when you go to jail. And this guy gave me a jacket out of the trunk of his car. And gosh, I don't know if he was an AA guy or not, or just a good Samaritan, but I was freezing. And that jacket just saved my life. But how close can you get to being homeless without being homeless? When I say this to you guys, it's geez, that's where life was taking me. And it was taking me there in a hurry. I was 21 years old. I just turned 21. I got sober 3 months after I turned 21. My sobriety date's November 28th, 2006. My birthday is August 25th, 2000 or 1985. So anyways, but yeah, ultimately I got to go to treatment. If it wasn't for treatment, I know I would not have gotten better. And if it wasn't for people standing over me, supporting and encouraging me and motivating me and walking the walk and being those trailblazers for me, I know I would not have gotten better. So I'm grateful to those people today, extremely grateful to those people today, and grateful for the rooms of AA. And I'm grateful for my sobriety. And that's why I'm dedicating this episode and why I'm dedicating Nomadic Addictt towards sober travel, towards sober lifestyle, towards mental health and wellness, because so much of this goes hand in hand with everything. And like, if alcohol and drugs are the solution to our problems and the solution stops working, then what are we left with? We're left with what we had before and probably feeling crappier now because we have no solution. But we're going to try to make sure that that solution continues to work, even though it's not. And that's where we lose families. That's where we lose finances. That's where we lose kids, you know, spouses, whatever, right? Like there's all sorts of loss associated with that. And we can lose ourselves, you know. It's again, like, not to be overly selfish, but I'm going to do a whole episode on selfishness versus self-love. Like there is a very strong difference between those two things. And self-love looks very much like selfishness. However, without taking care of yourself, you can't take care of anybody else. And they say that very plainly on a plane too. You know, secure your mask before helping others. You might have heard that before. Because you're not going to be able to do anything if you're passed out. And then your kids are going to suffer, whoever else is going to be there. You got to put your mask on, breathe in the air, then take care of the people around you. And that's what self-love is all about. And that's what recovery teaches me and AA teaches me today. So again, I'll tell you really a little bit more. I know we're running long, and thank you guys for listening here. But I'll tell you a little bit more about my story, and then we'll wrap it up. But I think I got sober as a result of these interventions. I stay sober because it works. Life for me is better today than it ever has been. And is it perfect? Absolutely not. Life on life's terms all the time. I'm constantly going through issues. You know, I'm in a lawsuit right now with a former business partner that is complete garbage. I can't even talk about, but it's something that doesn't make any sense. Never saw coming. I got lots of other little issues I'm not going to waste time on this episode talking about. But the purpose is it's life on life's terms. That's why I talk about it, because I don't want you guys to think I'm over here just, rainbows and sunshine and butterflies all day long. And, I'm just being spoon-fed cash by some sugar mama or sugar daddy. It's not the case. It's 100% me working for what I can in the best way that I can, budgeting the way that I can, so that I can achieve the life that I want to live and not feeling forced to have to do things because someone told me I had to, or a CEO is like telling me I have to, or living in a space of fear where I'm like, oh no, like I can't lose this job or I can't do whatever. It's like, no, if I have that belief in myself, if you have that belief in yourself, which is the purpose of this whole thing, I firmly believe that you can do whatever you want to do. I know that sounds very cliche, but it's the truth. You really, really can. And my life continues to prove that to me every time I choose to take a step off that ledge and trust that I'll grow wings on the way down. And that looks different to me all the time. But, finances go up and down. I got different things happening all the time. I'm in a small guest house right now and sort of living on a budget, and I'm grateful for that. It allows me to do the things I want to do. But anyway, I got sober, which I told you guys, as a result of other interventions. I stay sober because it works for me. My life is better today, and I wholeheartedly support that for you and anyone else that might be interested in that. And I want to share that with you guys in this episode for that reason, because there is hope out there. And if you're struggling today, and if you don't think that there's any hope and all you're seeing is darkness, I've been there. I promise you I've been there. I had no idea that life could be this good. And again, it's not perfect, but it is a really, really beautiful place to be. And I worked hard for it. I'm not going to make any lies or excuses about that. I certainly worked hard for it. Again, I went back to school. I got 2 masters. I don't say that in any form to flex on anybody or anything. I'm just saying that's part of the work that I've done. Nomadic Addictt, nobody's helping me with this. I'm doing all this myself. This is self-funded. This is self-motivated. This is self-driven. And again, this is not me tooting my horn. This is my passion project. I'm doing this 100% because I genuinely want to. I genuinely love and care about you guys. And I don't know if you believe me. Even if I don't know you, it's my truth. I love meeting people in this world. I love connecting with people in this world. And I know that that's my truth. And I wouldn't know that, and I wouldn't have this like ingrained in me if it wasn't for my recovery. So got sober, stay sober. We covered all that. That's the main reason why. But your life today can look any way that you want it to be when it comes to like why you want to get sober, if you want to get sober, and how you want to get sober. People do it through spiritual retreats. They do it through mindfulness and meditation. I, for one, am a huge fan of breathworks. And for me, this elusive word of balance is ultimately what I look for. And I know it's really hard if you identify as an alcoholic or drug addict. We talk a lot about how that is hard to find balance. If an alcoholic or drug addict could find balance, they wouldn't be an alcoholic. But I think just humanity, like in our human nature, it's our dopamine reward system. When good things feel good, we would like more of them. I don't even know that it has to be alcoholic or addict based. I think it's just kind of the root of human nature, right? And so if that's something that you lean in towards, I really encourage you to look into meditation, to look into mindfulness practice, to look into observing these thoughts, feelings, emotions that come up for you. And most importantly, if you got nothing else out of this, and God bless you for still listening, I hope that you just help, I hope to help, and I hope that you find a way to get in tune with yourself, that voice that's within you, and to really, really listen to it and to really, really trust it, because so much of the good things that I have in my life today stem from that. If it was not for my ability to listen to myself and trust myself, and if I had not ever gotten the tools or even knew how to listen to that or tap into it, there's no way I'd be where I am right now. Absolutely not. There's no way, And so I really look forward to the days ahead for me. I really look forward to the days ahead for Nomadic Addictt. And, I hope I covered enough of my story in there for you guys to be able to identify with. I hope there was enough vulnerability in there for you to feel, safe, knowing that, this can be a place to open up, and there's not a place of judgment, sharing some stuff that obviously doesn't make me look super great. And then, also moving forward in terms of why I got sober and how I got sober and why I continue to be sober, as part of my story. And so, I travel the world today. I've flown helicopters in the past. I've been to 50 states, upwards of 40 countries. You guys have heard me say, and I operate from living in Bali, Indonesia now. I have a great relationship with my family today. People trust me today. I operate with a space of integrity with my word. Like what I say, I do. And if something happens, there's usually because something happened. Again, I'm not perfect. I don't claim to be, but these are the fundamentals of life that I've learned in recovery. And as a result, amazing things seem to happen. I've wanted to sail the world, and while I'm far from having, circumnavigated the globe, I don't own a sailboat, but I've been invited on these trips, on 47-foot catamarans and 52-foot, 51-foot, pirate ships, and from Australia to New Zealand and all over. You guys have followed all these journeys, and I'm going to put a lot more content out about them. And again, that's what Adventures in Recovery is about. That's what Nomadic Addictt is about. It's about mental health and wellness. It's about a better life that exists out there for you, not just for me. This is not about me. If it was, it would be called Zac Spowart. That's not what this is about. This is Nomadic Addictt, and this is for you guys to identify with too. This is going to be an open platform, a community-driven platform, and a space for us all to connect well with each other. So I'm really, really looking forward to more of these. I promise they won't all be as long as this one. I just had a lot to share and open up with you guys. My target's going to be, 10 to 15 minutes for most of these episodes, and they'll be very, very specific stuff that we'll tackle. Faith versus fear, selfishness versus self-love, sober travel, solo travel, things like that, just to name a few. So I hope that you got something out of this episode. I hope that you'll share it with, friends and family that may benefit. Feel free to like, comments, engage, subscribe. Please subscribe, to these videos. Obviously, that's how we get, the word out there. I can't do this without you guys. All of Nomadic Addictt, in my vision and my purpose and my hopes for its future, to be a nonprofit and to be able to scholarship people's travel, and scholarship different opportunities for them, maybe education or or spiritual retreats or interventions for somebody that needs it. There's so many different things that can come out of this, and I can't do it alone. So I need your guys' help, and I need everybody's help. So that's my call to action for you guys. If you could just help me out with that, by sharing this, by liking it, by subscribing, by emailing me, messaging me, again, following me on Facebook, on Instagram. These are all things that the algorithms require to get the word out there more. So, save some of these things that you like, and forward them on to other people as well. And, I'm going to very much look forward to interviewing some other people, talking to them about their journeys and, sharing that with you guys. And I'm going to do some travel vlogging stuff like I shared earlier, and we're going to do some more voiceovers, and there's some really, really cool stuff along the way that just lights my soul up. So I can't wait to share it all with you guys. I'm exactly where I want to be right now with you guys, doing this work together with you. And, I just hope that you're as excited as I am to come in on this journey, because that's what it's about. One day at a time, we're living this life together, and I genuinely want you guys to live the best life possible. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for engaging. If you have anything that you want to cover, anything that you want to talk about, please put it in the comments. Please message me directly. Feel free to put it, out there in a public space too, so other people can comment on it too. We can build that community together. Keep an eye out on nomadicaddict.com, spelled with 2 T's. I'll remind you guys of that at the end. And, look for those mental wellness blogs, look for some travel hack stuff, and stay tuned for more episodes. Again, this won't all be recovery related. We're going to cover a whole bunch of stuff. So I hope that you got something out of this. I really, really love and appreciate you guys. Even if I don't know you, I absolutely do wholeheartedly love you. And I know that you're here for a reason. And I believe that you're here for a reason. And I hope that you know that you're here for a reason. And like what you're going to do and what you're capable of doing, it's really, really special. There's nobody else out there like you. So I hope you take that to heart. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. And I look forward to seeing you again soon. Thank you so much for being here.